The school bully grabbed my class queen girlfriend in front of the whole class, and this time I kept my hands in my pockets. In my last life, those same hands had broken Tyler Hayes' mouth for Madison Cole, then signed away my future under a disciplinary notice before the SAT, the most important exam of my life. So, when Madison screamed my name like I was still her personal bodyguard, I smiled, turned around, and walked away. The classroom went dead quiet. Tyler Hayes still had one hand on Madison's wrist. He was tall, athletic, and permanently wearing that rich kid expression that said every hallway in Westbridge High belonged to his family, which was almost true. His father, Dean Hayes, handled student discipline, and Tyler had been living under that umbrella so long he probably thought school rules were weather. Madison stumbled back from him, face red, eyes already shining. She had the timing, the angle, and the victim tremble ready before the room even decided what it had seen. In my first life, that look had ripped the brain right out of my skull. I had charged across the classroom before anyone could stop me. Tyler laughed. I swung, he went down, and the class exploded. For maybe 10 seconds, I felt like a hero. Then the teachers came. Madison cried in the office and said she never asked me to fight. Tyler's friends said I was jealous. Mr. Morrison, our homeroom teacher, told me senior year was too important for emotional outbursts. Dean Hayes arrived with a face full of righteous disappointment, as if his son had not started the whole thing. I wrote the self-reflection. I apologized. I took the school-wide criticism. That disciplinary record followed me straight into the most important months before the SAT. I missed opportunities I should have fought for. My head never settled again, and the exam that should have changed my life became the day I learned how expensive one stupid punch could be. The funniest part came after graduation. Madison Cole, the girl I had ruined myself defending, started dating Tyler Hayes. Then she married him. So yes, when I opened my eyes and found myself back in this classroom, watching the exact same scene happen again, I did not feel heroic. I felt awake. "Logan!" Madison called after me. My classmates stared like I had just committed a crime by refusing to perform the expected one. Someone near the back whispered, "Is he seriously leaving?" Tyler's mouth twitched. He looked disappointed. That was the first reward of my second life. The guy had set out bait and the fish had checked the hook, yawned, and swum away. I made it halfway to the hallway before Madison caught up and grabbed my sleeve. "Logan, what is wrong with you?" Her voice shook, just loud enough for the classroom to hear. "You saw what he did to me." I looked down at her hand on my sleeve. In my last life, I would have heard pain in her voice. This time, all I heard was direction. "Stand here, get angry, hit him, take the blame." "I saw," I said. Madison's eyes widened. "Then why did you walk away?" "Because my legs work." A few people in the doorway sucked in breath. One boy made a sound that was almost a laugh, then swallowed it when Madison turned her wet eyes on him. She pulled me farther into the hall, lowering her voice. "Are you mad at me? Is that it?" "I know Tyler was being disgusting, but if you just leave like that, everyone will think you are scared." Under the tremble, the priority was obvious. Image. "Everyone?" I asked. Madison bit her lip. "I mean, you are my boyfriend." That word landed softer than it should have. In the old life, I had lived on crumbs from that word. A smile in the corridor. A late-night message. A casual, "You understand me better than anyone." Enough sugar to keep a fool walking into fire. I slipped my sleeve out of her fingers. "Funny," I said. "When trouble shows up, I am your boyfriend. When the teacher asks who started it, I become some random guy with anger issues." Her face stiffened. "That is not fair," she whispered. "You are right. Fairness left the room when Tyler touched you, and somehow I became the one everyone was waiting to punish." Madison blinked fast, tears gathering again. She was good. I had to give her that. If crying had an entrance exam, she would have gone straight to a top university. "I did not ask him to do that," she said. "I know." Relief flashed across her face. Then I added, "And I did not ask to be your shield." Her hand froze in midair. Behind us, Tyler leaned against the classroom door like he owned the building. "Wow," he drawled. "Cole, your boyfriend is kind of useless." The old me would have turned around. The current me looked at him once and smiled. "Tyler, if you need attention that badly, raise your hand in class. It is free." The hallway cracked. A few students laughed before fear caught up with them. Tyler's face darkened. Madison's tears stopped for half a second, which told me more than the tears ever had. Before Tyler could answer, Mr. Morrison's voice cut down the hall. "Logan Miller, Madison Cole, Tyler Hayes, office, now." The school machine had woken up. Inside the teacher's office, the air smelled like old tea, chalk dust, and adult certainty. Mr. Morrison sat behind his desk with his fingers pressed together. Madison stood to one side, eyes lowered. Tyler leaned near the window, already bored. I stood in the middle like the answer key had been filled in before I arrived. Mr. Morrison sighed. Logan, senior year is a critical period. You have always had good grades. Why are you causing trouble now? I almost admired the speed. We had skipped investigation and gone straight to disappointment. Teacher, I said, what trouble did I cause? Mr. Morrison frowned. Do not play word games. Tyler says you provoked him. Madison says there was a misunderstanding. The whole class saw you arguing in the hallway. The whole class also saw Tyler grab Madison. Tyler clicked his tongue. I was joking. Great, I said. Then I am laughing on the inside. Mr. Morrison slapped the desk lightly, not hard enough to be scary, just hard enough to remind everyone which adult owned the room. Enough. Logan, even if Tyler's behavior was inappropriate, your attitude afterward was terrible. You embarrassed your classmate, spoke sarcastically, and disrupted class order. I nodded slowly. So Tyler grabs someone, Madison drags me into it, and my attitude is the emergency. Madison lifted her face. Logan, why are you saying it like that? I did not drag you into anything. I looked at her. The office went quiet. In my pocket, my phone felt heavier than it should have. I still had the message she sent before class, the one that said Tyler had been bothering her again, the one that asked if I could stay close because she felt scared. In the old life, I never showed it. I thought protecting her meant swallowing the proof. That was how a person trained himself into a doormat and called it love. Mr. Morrison opened a drawer and pulled out a blank school form. Here is what we are going to do. You will write a sincere self-reflection, 1,500 words. You will apologize to Tyler and Madison for escalating the situation. If your attitude is good, I can keep this from becoming a larger disciplinary issue. The universe had gift-wrapped the first tiny victory for me. Same room, same teacher, same trap, different idiot. No, I said. Mr. Morrison stared at me. What did you say? I said no, I am not writing it. Tyler straightened by the window, suddenly interested. Madison's face changed so fast it almost made me laugh. Panic first, then anger, then that soft, pleading look she used when she wanted someone else to pay her bill. Logan, she said quickly. Do not be stubborn, just write it. This is senior year. Do you really want this to become serious? That is exactly why I am not writing it. Mr. Morrison's voice hardened. Do you understand the consequences of refusing a teacher's arrangement? I understand consequences better than anyone in this room. For 1 second, then my voice came out too flat. The old exam hall flashed behind my eyes, my shaking hand, the blank space where an answer should have been. My mother's tired smile afterward, pretending my score did not break her heart. The joke died in my throat. Mr. Morrison did not notice. Adults like him rarely notice the human part. They noticed compliance. Fine, he said. Since you refuse to cooperate, I will call your parent. Madison went pale. That was interesting. Mr. Morrison picked up the office phone and found my mother's number in the contact system. As it rang, Madison took 1 step toward me. Logan, she whispered, can you stop making this worse? For who? Her mouth opened. No answer. Beautiful. My mother arrived 20 minutes later, still wearing the cardigan she used at home when she was rushing out too fast. Her face was tight with worry, and that part hurt. I could laugh at Tyler. I could laugh at Madison. I could even laugh at Mr. Morrison pretending to be fair. I could not laugh at my mother walking into school thinking her son had become the kind of boy who caused trouble over a girl. Logan, she said softly, pulling me aside. Tell me what happened. Mr. Morrison started. Mrs. Miller, the situation is already very clear. Then let my son speak, my mother said. The office went still. My mother was not loud. That was what made it work. I took out my phone, opened the chat, and handed it to her. Madison messaged me before class. She said Tyler was bothering her. She said she was scared. In my last, I stopped myself. I thought she wanted help. Then when things got ugly, she acted like I inserted myself. My mother read the message once. Then again, her fingers tightened around my phone. Madison Cole, she said, turning toward the girl by the desk. Did you send this? Madison's eyes filled again. Auntie, I was scared then. I did not mean for Logan to misunderstand. Misunderstand? My mother's voice sharpened. You ask my son for help, then let the teacher treat him like the problem. Tyler snorted. It is just a message. Nobody told him to act like her boyfriend. I glanced at him. Nobody told you to act like a handsy clown either, but here we are. Mr. Morrison snapped. Logan. My mother looked at him. Teacher, my son has proof that Madison asked him for help. Tyler admitted he touched her as a joke. Why is my son the only one being told to write a reflection? For the first time, Mr. Morrison looked uncomfortable. It lasted about 2 seconds. Mrs. Miller, he said, adjusting his glasses. Madison should not have sent a vague message, and Tyler's joking was inappropriate. I will speak to them separately. But setting aside those facts, Logan's attitude is still the biggest issue right now. Mr. Morrison had finally said the quiet part in a full sentence. It was so stupid it deserved a frame. I laughed quietly. Enough for him to hear. Mr. Morrison's face sank. What are you laughing at? Nothing, teacher. I am impressed. Impressed? Yes. Setting aside the facts, could I also be the emperor? If we are putting reality on vacation, I want a better title. My mother's eyes flicked toward me, warning me to stop before my mouth filed its own disciplinary notice. But Mr. Morrison's face turning purple did heal something small inside me. You are mocking your teacher now? He demanded. No, I am asking why the facts only become optional when they help me. The office door opened before he could answer. Dean Hayes stepped in with a folder under his arm and Tyler's same jawline on his face. If anyone ever needed proof that school politics could be hereditary, there it was. He did not look at Tyler first, he looked at me. Logan Miller, he said. I heard you refused to write a self-reflection and insulted your homeroom teacher. I looked from him to Tyler, then back again. Fast news service. Dean Hayes's eyes cooled. This attitude is exactly the problem. Your grades are good, but grades are not everything. A student who does not respect teachers cannot stay at Westbridge High and poison the learning environment. My mother stepped forward. Dean Hayes, my son showed proof that this girl asked him for help. Your son was involved too. Dean Hayes finally glanced at Tyler with a father's quick inventory check, like he was making sure the family vase had no scratch. Tyler will be educated at home, he said. Tyler looked at the floor. He was trying not to smile. My mother saw it. Her face changed. Good. It hurt her, but the fog was clearing. Dean Hayes continued. The issue now is Logan's refusal to accept school discipline. He disrupted class, argued with classmates, talked back to his teacher, and now mocks the office process. Mrs. Miller, I understand parents protect their children, but senior year leaves no room for this kind of instability. Instability, I repeated. That word had followed me in the old life too. Unstable, emotional, jealous, impulsive. They never called Tyler protected. They never called Madison dishonest. The labels always landed on the person without a dean for a father. Dean Hayes placed the folder on Mr. Morrison's desk. Here are your options. Logan writes a sincere self-reflection, apologizes to Mr. Morrison and the students involved, and accepts a formal warning. Or he can leave Westbridge High. We cannot teach a student who refuses basic discipline. My mother went still. The same wall rose in front of me, painted with nicer words. In my first life, this was where I folded. I told myself one apology was cheaper than losing the school. One self-reflection was cheaper than worrying my parents. One lie on paper was cheaper than a fight with adults. Then one lie became a record. Then one record became a missed chance. Then one missed chance became years of waking up with my chest full of sand. I looked at Madison. She had tears on her face again, but her eyes were fixed on me with something sharper than fear. She wanted me cornered. She wanted me to choose the old script because the old script had worked beautifully for her. I looked at Tyler. He was safe enough to be bored. I looked at Mr. Morrison. He was waiting for my head to lower. Finally, I looked at my mother. Her anger was still there, but worry had climbed over it. She was thinking about my future, my file, the SAT, the school reputation, all the words adults used when they wanted a child to swallow something bitter and call it medicine. I gave her a small smile. Mom, I said. Do not worry, she whispered. Logan, I am not writing a fake confession. Dean Hayes's mouth tightened. Then you understand what that means. I do. I turned back to him. If Westbridge High needs me to pretend Tyler did nothing, Madison said nothing, and Mr. Morrison saw nothing, then I am done here. Madison flinched. I kept going before anyone could interrupt. I will transfer. The office fell silent. Even Tyler's bored face cracked a little. Dean Hayes stared at me as if students were not supposed to know exits existed. Mr. Morrison recovered first. Do not speak impulsively. This is the final stretch before the SAT. Transferring now could ruin your future. I almost smiled again. In another life, staying here had already done that. Teacher, I said, my future survived one death. It can survive a transfer. My mother sucked in a breath. Madison's face went white. Dean Hayes's eyes narrowed because he thought I was being dramatic. That was fine! Let him think that! I picked up my phone from my mother's hand and slid it back into my pocket. The proof was still there. My hands were still clean. Tyler Hayes was still standing. Madison Cole was still lying. Westbridge High was still Westbridge High. The only thing that had changed was me. I bowed my head slightly to my mother, not to the teachers. Let's go home after this, I said. Tomorrow, we ask about Brookfield High. And for the first time since I woke up in this cursed day again, the path ahead looked hard, but possible. The news that I might transfer reached homeroom 204 before I did. By the time Mr. Morrison pushed open the classroom door, half the class had already decided I was the villain of their personal tragedy. They skipped Tyler, who started the fight bait. They skipped Madison, who had invited me into the mess and then cried like she had been kidnapped by my bad attitude. Somehow, the blame landed on me. Amazing. I had been reborn for less than one school day, and already the group project was blaming the one person who refused to carry it. Mr. Morrison stood at the lectern with his face tight enough to crack. Mrs. Miller was still beside me, holding her handbag with both hands, trying to look calm for my sake. Dean Hayes had gone ahead, probably to prepare the official version where his son remained a misunderstood athlete and I became a dangerous social problem in need of a stamp. "Class," Mr. Morrison said, "because Logan Miller refuses to recognize his mistake, this matter has now become more serious." The teacher voice arrived. Soft enough to sound reasonable, sharp enough to turn 28 students into a jury. Madison lowered her head at her desk. Her eyes were red again. If crying were an elective, she would have been recommended to a national team. Someone near the window muttered, "Just apologize already." Another boy said louder, "Yeah, why drag everyone into this?" Ryan Brooks, my desk mate, leaned back so far his chair almost gave up on him. He looked at me with the horror of a man watching his answer key walk into the ocean. "Bro," Ryan whispered, "if you leave, who am I supposed to copy physics from?" That was Ryan. Class loyalty, but make it academically parasitic. I dropped my bag beside my desk and said, "This is the most touching reason anyone has ever asked me to stay." Ryan pressed one hand to his chest. "I am speaking from the heart." The class laughed in patches, which annoyed Mr. Morrison more than my refusal had. He rapped his knuckles on the lectern. "This is not funny. Logan, stand in the back. Since you do not want to reflect in writing, perhaps you can reflect standing." I looked at Mrs. Miller. She looked back at me, still worried, but not confused anymore. She had seen Madison's message. She had heard Mr. Morrison say with his own mouth that facts could be set aside. That did something to me. In the last life, I had spent years feeling like even my own explanations came out covered in mud. This time, one person who mattered had seen the clean version before anyone could smear it. I picked up my bag again. "No thank you," I said. "I already reflected. I found the problem." Mr. Morrison's mouth flattened. "And what is the problem?" "This school." The classroom went still. Beautiful silence. Expensive silence. The kind schools only produced when a student said the quiet part in a public room. Madison looked up quickly. Tyler was not in the classroom anymore, which made sense. Protected boys did not wait around for paperwork. They were always mysteriously absent when consequences came to collect rent. Mr. Morrison pointed toward the door. "Office, now." Mrs. Miller stepped forward before I could answer. "If Logan is transferring, what paperwork do we need?" Mr. Morrison's expression twitched. For all his talk about discipline, he had not expected my mother to help me leave. Adults like him liked parents frightened and obedient. A mother asking for forms was a different species. "Mrs. Miller," he said, softening his voice into fake patience, "a transfer at this stage is not simple. The SAT is approaching. Brookfield High is not Westbridge High. Logan is being emotional." I smiled. "Teacher, if you say for your own good, I might start charging tuition." Ryan made a strangled sound behind me. Mrs. Miller did not smile. She only said, "Please give us the paperwork." Mr. Morrison held that look for 3 seconds, probably searching for the version of this scene where he still controlled us. Then he opened a drawer, pulled out a transfer and withdrawal packet, and slapped it on the desk. "You will need signatures from me, the great office, Dean Hayes, and Principal Bennett. Since Logan insists on destroying his own future, the school will not stop him." "Good," I said. "I hate when people stand in front of destruction. It blocks the lighting." "Logan," my mother said, because she was still my mother, and even righteous rebellion had a volume limit. I took the forms. The first signature was Mr. Morrison's. He uncapped his pen, then paused, letting the nib hover over the paper. "Last chance. Write the self-reflection. Apologize to Madison and Tyler. I can still persuade Dean Hayes to treat this as a misunderstanding." Madison made a tiny sound from her desk, a perfect little broken note. In the last life, that sound would have dragged me like a hook through the ribs. I would have started apologizing before I knew what crime I was admitting to. This time, I saw the hook. That made it less romantic. "I have a trade," I said. Mr. Morrison narrowed his eyes. "What trade?" "If you apologize to my mother for accusing me without checking the message, I might consider staying long enough to win the Physics Olympiad slot for homeroom 204. Ms. Parker, the physics teacher, had walked in during that last sentence. She stopped near the door with a stack of papers under her arm, eyes moving from my face to the form. For a second, she looked honestly startled. That was the first teacher face all day that did not make me want to ask where they kept the school blindfolds. "Logan," Ms. Parker said, "you are transferring?" "Trying to. But the Olympiad recommendation list is due soon. Your scores are—" She stopped, maybe realizing the room did not need another adult accidentally confessing what Westbridge High was about to lose. Mr. Morrison heard it anyway. His hand tightened around the pen. I turned back to him. One apology. Very simple. You can say, "Mrs. Miller, I set aside facts, and that was embarrassing for me as an educator. I can even accept a shorter version." The class made another low noise. Mr. Morrison signed so hard the paper dented. "There," he said. "Since you are determined to go, go. Early payoff, stamped in black ink." He thought he was dismissing me. He had just made my exit official. I took the form from his hand. "Thank you, teacher. I knew we could solve this peacefully." Ms. Parker followed us into the hallway and tried to slow the fall with one reasonable sentence. "Logan, transferring this close to exams is risky. If this is only anger, wait one day. Reasonable advice. Terrible timing." "If this were only anger, I would," I said. But Mr. Morrison asked me to sign a lie. Dean Hayes threatened my file because his son was involved. If I stay, I am not studying under teachers. I am negotiating with people who can change facts when facts make them uncomfortable. Ms. Parker looked at the form, then toward the classroom door. "Dean Hayes' son!" I said nothing. She understood anyway. "Brookfield High has good teachers too," she said quietly. "Keep your physics stable. And do not waste your talent just to prove a point." That one hit closer than I liked. In a last life, I'd wasted time, sleep, pride, and the kind of belief parents did not get back once a school taught them to doubt their own child. I nodded. "I am leaving to stop wasting it." Mrs. Miller tightened her grip on her handbag. Then we finished the forms. The great office tried one last round of official theater. Dean Hayes sat behind his desk like he had personally invented consequences, while Principal Bennett read my transfer application with the expression of a man discovering a crack in his clean wall and blaming the crack for existing. "Logan Miller," Principal Bennett said, "your academic record is strong. Your conduct record was also clean before today." "Before today?" I repeated. Very educational phrase. Dean Hayes tapped the form. "Your attitude is the issue." My attitude did not call Madison downstairs, ask me to fight Tyler, or threaten my file when I refused to lie. Principal Bennett looked at my mother. "A transfer will affect review materials, teacher recommendations, and contest support. Translation, we own several gates and would like you to remember that." My mother heard the hidden cost first. Parents always did. I stepped half a pace forward. "Then correct the accusation." Mr. Morrison apologizes to my mother. Westbridge High states in writing that I did not beat Tyler, did not harass Madison, and did not need discipline. Then we can discuss whether I stay. Dean Hayes laughed once. "You want the school to apologize to a student?" "No," I said. "To a mother you tried to scare with a fake record." That was when the joke stopped. Principal Bennett closed the folder. "Dean Hayes, sign the application." Dean Hayes stared at him. "Principal Bennett, if the family insists, we cannot force him to remain." Westbridge High did not apologize, correct the rumor, or promise to clean my name. It only signed fast enough to push the scene out of its building before more people noticed the smoke. Dean Hayes signed. Principal Bennett signed after him. I took the form back and checked each signature carefully. Dean Hayes snorted. "Do you think we would cheat you on a form?" "No," I said. "I think you would set aside facts, so I am developing healthy habits." Principal Bennett looked like he had swallowed a lemon seed and found out it had tenure. We were almost out when Dean Hayes spoke again. "Brookfield High will not protect you from your temper, Logan. Without Westbridge High's platform, you may find out what you really are." I stopped at the door. In the old life, a dean's voice had sounded like the future. Now it sounded like Tyler in a suit. "Dean Hayes," I said, "if your son had my temper, he would have taken responsibility by now." Then I left before my mother could decide whether to scold me or secretly enjoy it. The signature change should have taken a day. It took 1 hour because Westbridge High suddenly discovered efficiency. Nothing moved faster than an institution disposing of a problem it had created. By lunch, the class knew I was leaving. I came back to clear my desk, and everyone pretended not to watch while absolutely watching. The room had that funeral mood students created when drama became real enough to affect seating arrangements. Ryan stood beside my desk with a notebook in his hands. "I prepared something," he said solemnly. I looked at the notebook. "Is that a goodbye letter?" "No. The last 3 physics problems you solved yesterday. I need closure, Ryan. You cannot abandon me with Mr. Morrison and a blank workbook. There are laws. Name one, the law of friendship." "That law does not apply to copying homework." Ryan thought about it. "Then, the law of community service." I laughed despite myself and took the notebook. I wrote the method for the 3 problems, shorter than usual. Ryan leaned over my shoulder like I was drafting a will. Are you really going to Brookfield High? He asked, quieter. Yes. People are saying you got kicked out. People can say what they want. Madison is crying again. Hydration is important. Ryan gave me a look. You were scary when you were calm. I was scarier when I was stupid. He did not understand that line, but I did. The old me had been loud, loyal, and extremely convenient to manipulate. Calm Logan was new. Calm Logan had forms, screenshots, and a mother who knew the truth. I finished the last problem and tore out the page. Ryan tucked it into his book like sacred scripture. For what it is worth, I do not think you were wrong. That was Ryan's version of an emotional speech. Efficient, slightly damp from homework dependence, but sincere. Thanks, I said. He leaned closer. Also, if Westbridge High starts acting weird about you, I will message you. Why? Because I love gossip, and you are my most valuable gossip investment. There it is. Ryan grinned. Friendship. I packed my books. Madison stood up when I reached the door. The class went quiet so fast it was almost embarrassing. Everyone wanted the breakup scene, preferably with subtitles. Logan, Madison said. Her voice shook. She walked toward me with both hands clenched around her phone. Her eyes were red, but this time I could see the calculation under the tears. She needed one last version where she had tried, where she remained kind, where whatever happened next was my fault because I refused her softness. She stopped in the hallway, just outside the classroom door. Can we talk? Mrs. Miller was waiting farther down the hall, giving me space but not leaving me alone. I appreciated that more than I knew how to say. I looked at Madison. Talk. Madison's lashes trembled. I am sorry, I really did not mean for it to become this big. I was scared. Tyler was angry, and I thought if you helped me, everything would calm down. By helped you, you mean took the blame. She glanced toward the classroom, where 20 faces were failing at pretending not to listen. I knew you cared about me. The knife came with a ribbon on it. For a second, I did not see the hallway. I saw the old life. Madison in a graduation dress, smiling beside Tyler. My parents' tired faces after another school meeting. My own hands after the fight, bruised and useless, holding a future that had already cracked. I had wanted her to choose me so badly that I had volunteered to become disposable. That memory was humiliating. It was also useful. Pain made an excellent highlighter. Madison, I said, you were never scared I would get hurt. You were scared I would stop being useful. Her face went pale. That is not true. Then why did you ask me to apologize after you saw Tyler provoke me? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Good. Silence. Finally, a language she could speak honestly. I took out my phone. Her contact name still sat there from the old habit, soft and familiar. I deleted it in front of her. Madison's eyes widened. Logan, don't. I already did. We can still be friends. No. Friends do not need me to bleed so their reputation stays pretty. She flinched, and for a second I almost felt cruel. Then I remembered my mother's face in that office. The pathetic part, I said, quieter, is that if you keep choosing Tyler's protection over the truth, you will end up beside him and call it fate. She stared at me like I had cursed her. Maybe I had. Or maybe I was only reading the ending from a book I had already survived. I turned away before she could cry herself into another courtroom. Behind me, Ryan whispered, that was brutal. I did not look back. Write it down. It might be on the exam. The last thing I did before leaving Westbridge High was return my borrowed classroom key to Mr. Morrison's desk. He was in the office, pretending to grade papers. He did not look up. You will regret this, he said. Probably, I said. I regret lots of things. That is why I am improving. He finally lifted his eyes. Brookfield High will not turn you into a hero. I do not need a school to turn me into anything. That line sounded arrogant even to me, but sometimes arrogance was just confidence said, near people who preferred you smaller. Mrs. Miller and I walked out through the front gate together. She did not ask me again if I was sure. She only waited until we were outside before she said, Logan, tell me honestly, can Brookfield High accept you this late? Yes. How? They have empty seats, my grades are good, and Westbridge High just signed the forms quickly enough to make themselves look suspicious. She gave me a tired look. That is not a complete plan. It is a very handsome outline. Logan? So I stopped joking. Mom, I know I scared you today. I know transferring now is risky, but staying there is riskier. If I sign a false confession once, every adult in that building learns I can be pushed. I cannot take the SAT with my throat under their shoe. She looked away toward the school gate. For a while she said nothing. Then she nodded. Then we go to Brookfield High. That was the moment Westbridge High truly lost. My mother chose my truth over their reputation. The transfer paperwork took the rest of the afternoon. Brookfield High was not glamorous. The building was older, the gate paint was chipped, and the campus did not have Westbridge High's clean demonstration school shine. I liked it immediately. Places that looked perfect had started making me nervous. That evening, after dinner, I opened my laptop and logged into the forum for Exit Pass. The story had been my secret side life for months. A ridiculous one, if you asked most teachers. A student writing serialized fiction before the SAT? Criminal behavior. Clearly, the next step was stealing chalk and forming a gang. But the comments were real. When I posted a short hiatus note, the replies came faster than I expected. One reader wrote that if the author vanished before the next chapter, they would personally fail all their mock exams in protest. Another asked whether I had been kidnapped by homework. A third wrote, "Author, do simple things repeatedly. Update, eat, sleep. Update." I stared at that one for a long time. Do simple things repeatedly. In the last life, I had made everything complicated. Love, loyalty, rage, pride. I had treated every insult like a fire and every tear like an emergency siren. This time, the simple things mattered. Do not fight Tyler. Do not sign lies. Do not let Madison hold the steering wheel. Study, write, protect my parents, find Emma before the world buried her under other people's noise. I typed one line under the hiatus notice. The author is transferring schools. Updates will resume when the author survives the seating chart. The comments exploded. Ryan messaged me 10 seconds later. Ryan Brooks messaged, "Author? Wait, are you saying you were the author?" I stared at the screen. I messaged, "Ryan, you were supposed to admire the sentence structure." Ryan Brooks messaged, "Bro." I messaged, "Keep this quiet." Ryan Brooks messaged, "Define quiet." I messaged, "The opposite of you." Ryan Brooks messaged, "Hurtful, accurate, fine." I closed the laptop smiling. The next morning, Mrs. Miller adjusted my collar at the door like I was 6 years old and heading to school with a lunchbox. I let her. Some humiliations were love in a cheap disguise. Brookfield High's homeroom teacher, Ms. Anderson, met us near the office. She was brisk, sharp-eyed, and did not perform the tragic sigh adults use when a transfer student arrived with rumors attached. She checked my file, checked my mother, then checked me. "Logan Miller," she said. "Your previous school noted a conflict with classmates." "Very generous of them," I said. "They set aside many facts to reach that sentence." Ms. Anderson's mouth twitched. My mother shot me a warning look, but it had less panic in it than yesterday. "Progress." Ms. Anderson closed the folder. "Your grades are strong. Your conduct note is vague. I will judge you by what you do in my classroom." I almost applauded. Instead, I nodded. "That is fair." She led me toward the senior class corridor. The noise inside her classroom spilled through the door before we reached it. New school, same student species, curiosity, gossip, panic over exams, and at least one person laughing too loudly at a joke that was probably not that good. Ms. Anderson put her hand on the door. "There is an open desk in the third row," she said. "You can start there." I looked through the narrow window in the door. And there she was. Emma Blake sat by the window, glasses low on her nose, writing in a notebook with the careful focus of someone trying not to occupy too much air. In the last life, she had been a quiet name I noticed too late. People mocked her for being dull because she did not perform. After graduation, she turned out to have more depth, money, talent, and patience than half the school combined. More importantly, she had never once used me as a shield. Ms. Anderson opened the door. The class turned. I stepped into Brookfield High with my transfer form still warm from yesterday's signatures and asked the first useful question of my new life. "Teacher, can I sit next to Emma Blake?" Ms. Anderson looked from me to the seating chart, then from the seating chart to the very quiet girl by the window. Emma Blake looked up too. Her eyes widened behind her glasses, which was understandable. A transfer student had just walked into class with a rumor cloud over his head and immediately requested the seat beside her like he was choosing a limited edition prize. Subtle, low-key, practically invisible. The class was not subtle either. Chairs creaked. Pens stopped moving. Someone near the back whispered, "He knows Emma?" Another student whispered back, "Maybe he transferred for her." That was fast. Brookfield High gossip had better reflexes than Westbridge High discipline. Ms. Anderson cleared her throat. "Logan Miller, do you know Emma?" "I know of her," I said. That sounded suspicious because it was suspicious. I could hardly say, in my last life, I failed to notice that the quiet girl beside the window was one of the few people in this age group with actual character, so I am correcting the universe's seating arrangement. Even I knew when to edit. Ms. Anderson studied my face. "Emma, is the seat beside you open?" Emma glanced at the empty desk, then at me, then back down at her notebook. "Yes, teacher." Her voice was soft enough that the room leaned in to hear it. "Then sit there," Ms. Anderson said to me. "But before that, introduce yourself." I walked to the front. The class had already built a version of me before I opened my mouth. Transfer from Westbridge High, conflict with classmates, rumor of a fight, possibly a simp, possibly expelled, possibly all of the above with bonus content. I gave them my most harmless smile. Hello everyone, I am Logan Miller. My grades are average, my character is excellent, and I absolutely never fight. For half a second, the room froze. Then laughter broke out. Ms. Anderson pressed her lips together, clearly trying not to reward me on my first day. Average grades? Average for my future standards. And the part about never fighting? A personal development goal. This time, even Ms. Anderson's eyes curved. Good. First rule of surviving a rumor, do not let the rumor decide your posture. If they expected shame, give them shamelessness. If they expected violence, give them a greeting card smile and make them wonder whether the violence had been outsourced. Ms. Anderson pointed toward Emma's row. Sit down. And Logan? Yes, teacher? In this class, jokes do not replace homework. Understood. I will use them as supplemental material. The class laughed again. I carried my bag to the window seat. Emma quietly moved her books closer to her side, not in a rude way. More like someone making sure I had enough room without requiring a conversation about it. That tiny movement told me more than a welcome speech would have. Thank you, Miss Blake, I said softly as I sat. She blinked. Miss Blake, respectful address. We are classmates. Then I will use it respectfully, as a classmate. She lowered her head, and I saw the corner of her mouth move. Not quite a smile thinking about applying for permission. Because one school transfer had taught my mouth zero survival skills, I leaned slightly closer and asked, Miss Blake, do you have a boyfriend? Her pen stopped. The nearby desks went quiet in a way that proved the whole class had suddenly developed excellent hearing. Emma stood up with her notebook pressed to her chest. I need to ask Ms. Anderson about question 5. We have not opened the book yet. Then, question 6. She escaped to the lectern before I could make it worse. On my first morning at Brookfield High, I had already made my new deskmate flee without leaving my chair. Personal development goal number 2, become less alarming. The next period was self-study, which meant 40 seniors pretended to work while tracking every breath the new transfer took. The class monitor turned around first. Owen Fisher, did you really transfer because you fought over a girl? No, I said. Westbridge High discovered my character was too excellent for their storage capacity. Someone choked on a laugh. Across the aisle, Chloe Harper leaned on her elbow. English class representative, social weather system, and, in the old life, one of Madison's little bridges into Brookfield High gossip. Logan Miller, right? Chloe said. I know Madison Cole from elementary school. The past had arrived before lunch. Efficient. Annoying. Condolences, I said. Chloe's eyebrows shot up. Emma's pen paused. Madison told people you liked her a lot, Chloe said. She told the truth once. Historic day. And now? I opened my notebook. Now I am retired from unpaid bodyguard work. Before Chloe could decide whether to laugh or dig harder, Mason Cooper stood near the back door. He had the shoulders of someone who played basketball like the backboard had personally insulted him. New guy, Mason said. Do not flirt with Chloe on your first day. Every school had a Mason, sometimes truly dangerous, sometimes a walking warning label powered by insecurity and cafeteria protein. The trick was waiting for receipts. I am not flirting, I said. Mason stared. I pointed at my notebook. I am networking. The class exploded. Chloe laughed loudest, which did nothing helpful for Mason's blood pressure. Emma leaned slightly toward me and whispered, Mason might actually hit people. The humor stopped where it needed to. She was not controlling the scene. She was warning me because she thought I might not understand the room yet. I lowered my voice. Then I will not hit back first. That is not very comforting. It is legally thoughtful. She pressed her lips together, almost smiling despite herself. Mason sat down, still watching me. Fine, I had handled Tyler by refusing the old trap. I could handle Mason by refusing to become Tyler with better grades. Ms. Anderson returned with a stack of English reading papers and dropped them on the lectern. Since everyone is so interested in our new classmate, she said, short reading test, 20 minutes, no discussion. I loved teachers like Ms. Anderson. She saw a gossip fire and poured an exam on it. Chloe handed out papers with a smile. Average grades, right? Deeply average. Then I will be gentle when I beat you. Please do. My character is fragile. Emma ignored us and began reading. That was another thing I liked about her. In a classroom full of people trying to become a headline, she lived like a footnote with excellent handwriting. The test was not hard. I had already lived through this year once, and some grammar traps had the cozy smell of a teacher who reused favorite knives. I finished in 8 minutes and spent 5 more pretending to struggle, because walking into a new school and immediately acting like a human answer key lacked diplomacy. When Ms. Anderson collected the papers, Mason looked over. Done already? Westbridge High does tests by guessing? Only on days with good weather. Careful. Brookfield High is not your old school. I noticed. The teachers here read evidence. Ms. Anderson looked up. Logan. Sorry, teacher. Supplemental material. Less supplemental, more quiet. I shut up, mostly. During the break, Ms. Anderson marked fast. Chloe waited near the lectern, badly pretending not to care. Mason sharpened a pencil with hostile commitment. Emma reviewed her answers with one finger on the page. Chloe, 2 wrong, Ms. Anderson said. Good. Emma, 3 wrong. Much better on inference. Then she picked up my paper. Her pen slowed. That was the kind of silence students could smell. Logan. Yes, teacher. How many questions did you think you missed? Quite a few. Ms. Anderson held up the paper. 1. The room snapped toward me. Chloe's smile froze. Mason made a sound that might have been a cough if coughs had enemies. I looked genuinely regretful because I was enjoying myself. Anything less than perfect is failure. The class erupted. Ms. Anderson put my paper on the desk. 98, highest in the class today. Average for future standards, I reminded her. 1 more sentence and I will average your mouth with the hallway. Understood. Emma looked at the paper for one careful second. You are good at English. Her tone was not flattery. It was observation, clean and direct. A little, I said. You said average. I have a flexible relationship with humility. This time she smiled properly. Small, quick, gone almost before I could prove it had existed. That tiny smile gave me a stronger hit than the 98. I was reborn, not made of concrete. By lunch, the rumor had upgraded itself. I was no longer only the Westbridge High transfer who fought over Madison Cole. I was the transfer who denied the fight, insulted Madison's friendship value, irritated Mason, and scored 98 while calling it failure. Messy brand. Real motion. Emma's friend Grace came over with her lunchbox. Emma, everyone is talking about him. Emma looked at me, then back to her. He is sitting here. I know. That is why I lowered my voice. You did not lower it very much, I said. Grace smiled. Then pretend I did. Chloe joined us before the conversation could become peaceful. Logan, do you read Exit Pass? My hand paused over my lunch. The title had followed me through the school gate faster than expected. The author posted a hiatus note last night, Chloe said. Said he transferred schools. Several heads turned. Ryan, wherever he was at Westbridge High, had either kept quiet or defined quiet in the broadest possible way known to mankind. Emma's eyes flicked toward me. You read it? A little. Grace leaned in. Everyone in our class forum was yelling about the hiatus. The writing is really good. The author sounds arrogant, Mason said from behind us. I turned. That is a literary technique. You know him? Very well. Chloe's eyes brightened. Wait, really? Intimately. The table went quiet. Emma blinked. I realized half a second too late that intimately was not the best word to use around a serialized novel and a girl who took language very literally. I coughed once, as in, I understand his creative habits. Grace laughed into her hand. Emma looked down at her lunch, ears faintly pink. I filed that under. Be careful, you idiot. Chloe loved the crack in my composure. Can you ask him to update? The author is recovering from a traumatic seating chart experience. So you do know him. I know many people. I am popular in hidden places, Mason said. Sounds fake. Your skepticism is valuable to the community. Ms. Anderson walked past with her lunch tray and said without slowing down, Logan, if I hear you starting a cult on your first day, I will separate the seating chart. I put one hand over my heart. Teacher, I am promoting literature. Promote it quietly. Yes, teacher. Emma's shoulders shook once. A silent laugh. That was a better review than the forum. The afternoon Chinese period belonged to Mr. Whitman. Mr. Whitman was different from Ms. Anderson. She looked like she could organize chaos into rows. He looked like he had spent years watching students murder essays and had developed patience as a survival organ. He entered with a thermos, a stack of composition books, and the mild expression of a man who could destroy your thesis statement without raising his voice. New student, he said after taking attendance. Logan Miller. I stood. Here, sit. I have seen your file. Strong overall, but Chinese scores from Westbridge High are inconsistent. That was true. In the old life, my Chinese composition had swung like a door in a storm. Sometimes brilliant, sometimes overdramatic, sometimes clearly written by a person who thought commas were emotional support. This time, I had Exit Pass, a reader base, and several months of hard-earned practice turning messy feeling into clean hooks. Mr. Whitman began class with a classical reading passage, then moved into composition structure. I listened for 10 minutes. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket with a forum notification. I should have ignored it. I did not. I kept the phone under the desk, opened a blank draft, and wrote 3 lines for the next exit pass chapter. Just 3. A tiny crime. Academic jaywalking. Emma noticed first. She looked at my phone, then at Mr. Whitman, then back at me. Her eyes widened in a silent warning. I slid the phone halfway under my notebook. Too late. Mr. Whitman stopped speaking. Logan Miller. The whole class turned. Again, I was beginning to suspect my low-key plan had structural weaknesses. I stood slowly. Mr. Whitman walked down the aisle and held out his hand. Phone. I gave it to him with the screen still open. In my defense, locking the screen would have looked guiltier. Also in my defense, I had terrible instincts around writing drafts. Mr. Whitman read the 3 lines. His expression changed. Not angry, interested. That was more dangerous. You wrote this? He asked. Yes, teacher. During my class. Also yes, I believe in full confession when the evidence is glowing. The class laughed, but softly. Mr. Whitman did not. He turned the phone face down before the nearest row could lean in. Hallway, he said. I followed him outside. The door closed behind us, cutting off the classroom buzz. Mr. Whitman held my phone between 2 fingers and scrolled just far enough to reach the draft folder header. Exit pass. His eyes lifted to mine. This is yours? Yes. Can you prove it? I took the phone, opened the author dashboard and showed him the back end. Drafts, comments, posting history, all of it. Mr. Whitman's sternness shifted into something like reluctant delight. Your pacing is good, he said. Thank you. Your chapter endings are shameless. Also thank you. Your punctuation occasionally commits crimes. That one felt less like a compliment. He handed the phone back. You are talented, Logan. That does not give you permission to write during class. Understood. And talent in serialized fiction does not automatically mean your exam composition will rank first. I knew where this was going. Teachers loved turning compliments into homework. It was their natural hunting pattern. Mr. Whitman continued, there is a 4-school joint mock exam coming. Westbridge High, Brookfield High, Northgate High, and Fairview Prep. If you can rank first in Chinese for Brookfield High, I will allow you to use spare class time for writing after you complete assigned work. If you cannot, your phone stays with me during Chinese period. Only Brookfield High first? His eyebrow rose. Are you negotiating upward? I am clarifying the size of my cage. Fine. Rank first in Chinese across the 4 schools. That was supposed to scare me. It did, a little. The challenge was possible, but public challenges had a way of attracting public failure. In the last life, I had made my future smaller every time I acted on emotion. This risk was connected to skill, not a trap connected to pride. I could accept that. Deal, I said. Mr. Whitman studied me. You are confident. No, teacher. I am trying to do simple things repeatedly. He smiled at that, quick and approving. Then start with putting your phone away. Simple, painful, educational. When we returned to the classroom, the room pretended to be normal and failed at an elite level. Chloe had already written something in her notebook and shoved it toward Grace. Owen was turned halfway around. Mason was staring like I had personally insulted the concept of literacy. As I passed Chloe's desk, she slid one folded scrap of paper toward the edge. Exit pass? I tucked the scrap under my Chinese textbook without answering. Mr. Whitman placed my phone on his desk. Class, he said. Logan Miller will not be writing unrelated material during my lecture again. I nodded obediently. He has also accepted a challenge. That was when I stopped nodding. Mr. Whitman looked at me with teacherly innocence. Betrayal but educational. On the 4-school joint mock exam, Logan will aim for first place in Chinese across all participating schools. If he succeeds, I will permit him to write after completing class assignments. If he fails, his phone will be managed during my period. The classroom absorbed that. Then Owen said, across all 4 schools? Chloe turned to me. You agreed to that? Mason laughed once. First day and already acting like a legend. I sat down beside Emma and opened my Chinese textbook. Emma looked at me with genuine worry. Can you do it? That question did not have mockery in it. It had concern. I wanted to joke. I almost did. But her hand rested near the edge of her notebook, fingers tense, and I remembered her earlier warning about Mason. Emma took other people's danger seriously even when she barely knew them, so I answered plainly. I can try. She nodded, small and solemn. Then, good luck. Thank you, Miss Blake. She glanced down. You still call me that, respectfully. It sounds strange. I can stop if you dislike it. She thought about it for a second. I did not say I dislike it. My brain, which had handled administrative threats, public rumors, and a 4-school exam challenge with reasonable function, briefly lost all professional discipline. Chloe saw my face and whispered from across the aisle. Oh, he is done. I heard that, I said. Good, Chloe said. It was for you. Mason muttered. Ridiculous. Maybe it was. By the end of that first day, Brookfield High had not accepted me exactly. Acceptance was too warm a word for a room of seniors staring down exams with the emotional stability of over-caffeinated squirrels, but they had updated the file. I was no longer just the transfer from Westbridge High. I was the guy with the suspicious fight rumor, the one wrong English paper, the possible author identity, the seat beside Emma Blake, Chloe Harper's interest, Mason Cooper's irritation, and Mr. Whitman's public challenge sitting on my desk like a live grenade. That was a lot for one day. Low-key was dead. We held a private memorial and moved on. When the final bell rang, Emma packed her books carefully. She moved slower than everyone else, giving the crowd time to leave. I recognized the tactic because I had used versions of it after disciplinary meetings in the old life. Sometimes you did not wait because you were slow. You waited because attention hurt. I did not rush her. Grace left with Chloe, though Chloe glanced back twice. Mason left with 2 boys from the back row, bumping one desk hard enough to make a point. Subtle work from a subtle man. When the room was nearly empty, Emma looked at me. Logan. It was the first time she said my name. Ridiculous how much that mattered. Yes? If Mason bothers you, you can tell Ms. Anderson. I smiled. You trust teachers? Emma adjusted her glasses. Some teachers. That answer was more mature than most speeches. I will remember that, I said. She hesitated. And the novel, I read it. I kept my voice light because her courage was obviously costing her. Then I can apologize to the author for his punctuation crimes. I like it, she said. 3 quiet words from Emma did more damage to my composure than Mason's entire warning label. For a second, the room softened around the edges. I will tell him, I said. Plain language, no joke, no joke. Some moments were better without decoration. Emma nodded quickly and picked up her bag. At the doorway, she stopped. First in Chinese across 4 schools is difficult. Very. Then do simple things repeatedly. She left before I could answer. I sat there for another breath, looking at the empty doorway. The line had come from a forum comment the night before. I had said it to Mr. Whitman in the hallway. Now Emma had thrown it back to me like a tiny borrowed promise. Brookfield High was already more dangerous than Westbridge High in one specific way. Here, people could still surprise me for the better. My phone buzzed on Mr. Whitman's desk, where he had forgotten to return it for exactly 30 dramatic seconds. The screen lit with a message from Ryan. Ryan Brooks messaged, Update. Westbridge High is saying you begged to leave because you could not handle discipline. I looked at the message, then at the Chinese textbook in front of me, then at the seat Emma had just left. Westbridge High had started writing its version. Fine. I had a novel audience, a new classroom, a 4-school exam, and one very quiet girl who had just told me to do simple things repeatedly. Let them talk. This time, I could answer with scores. Westbridge High found out the author they were praising was the student they had thrown away before the second morning bell. Ryan sent me the screenshots while Ms. Anderson's class was still pretending self-study meant studying by yourself. In the first screenshot, the city education account had shared Exit Pass as a bright example of student writing. In the second, Westbridge High's school forum had reposted it with a caption so proud it probably needed its own chair. Then came the third screenshot. Post deleted. Under it, Ryan had typed 5 words. Ryan Brooks messaged, They realized it was you. That was efficient. Yesterday I had been a discipline problem who could not handle pressure. This morning I had become student literary talent for approximately 9 minutes, then vanished from Westbridge High's memory like an inconvenient typo. Ryan kept sending messages. Ryan Brooks messaged, Morrison pulled Madison out. She told him you wrote it. Ryan Brooks messaged. He said the school should verify whether it was copied. Ryan Brooks messaged, translation, panic. I stared at the screen and almost laughed. Of course Madison knew. Months ago, back when I still thought being useful was the same as being loved, I had shown her a chapter draft. She had called it kind of interesting, and then asked whether I could help her with math. Truly, romance had been thriving. Historians would study us and give up. Now Westbridge High wanted the praise without the student. That was a familiar shape. They liked my grades when they improved their reputation, liked my writing when it looked like theirs, and hated my mouth whenever it asked who had actually done the work. Chloe Harper slid into the seat across from me before I could put my phone away. She did not ask permission. Chloe treated empty chairs like political openings. Exit pass? She said softly. She had written the same question on a scrap of paper after Mr. Whitman caught my phone. Now she said it out loud with her eyes bright and dangerous. Emma, beside me, paused over her notebook. That pause settled the decision. I could let Chloe corner me first. I could let Westbridge High delete, rename, or twist the story before I chose who heard the truth. Or I could do one simple thing before the room did what rooms always did. I looked at Chloe. After second period. That sounds like a yes? That sounds like after second period. Chloe smiled. You are very annoying. Strong review. Please post it under my novel. Emma's pen moved again, but slower. That was my warning. If I let Emma hear the truth from Chloe, I would become the exact kind of person I disliked, someone who used silence because it was convenient. After second period, I asked Emma to walk with me to the stairwell near the music room. It was quiet there, mostly because seniors avoided stairs whenever exams had already climbed on their backs. Emma held her notebook against her chest. Is this about the novel? Yes. She looked down. Then you know the author? I am the author. Her fingers tightened on the notebook. I opened my phone and showed her the dashboard, drafts, comments, posting history, the whole embarrassing backstage where my chapter titles went to fight for their lives. Emma stared at it for a long second. You said you would tell him, she said. I did. That was a cheap trick. That tiny word hurt more than a paragraph. No drama, no accusation, just a small sound of trust bumping into a wall. I put the phone away. I should have told you before I joked around it. She looked at me then. Why are you telling me now? Because Chloe suspects. Westbridge High knows enough to start deleting things. If you hear it from somebody else, it turns into gossip before it turns into truth. Emma was quiet, so I gave her the part a normal person could understand and kept the rebirth where it belonged, buried behind my teeth. At Westbridge High, Madison asked me to help because Tyler was bothering her. When Tyler tried to bait me, I walked away. She lied in the office. Mr. Morrison asked me to apologize anyway, and Dean Hayes protected Tyler because Tyler is his son. They wanted me to write a self-reflection for something I did not do. Emma's face changed slowly, like she was putting the hallway rumors beside the person standing in front of her and deciding which one had evidence. So you transferred, she said. Yes. And Westbridge High is saying you could not handle discipline. Ryan just told me. Emma looked toward the stairwell window. Her voice was soft but clear. That is unfair. She gave no speech and no dramatic gasp. She simply named the correct answer. I had spent years in the old life wanting one person to say that while it still mattered. It is, I said. What will you do? I showed her the saved screenshots from Ryan. Post the deleted praise on Brookfield High's forum with my author account, timestamps, original link, deletion record, and proof that I am the author. Clean facts. Will that make Westbridge High angry? Probably. Will it make people stare at you more? Definitely. Emma adjusted her glasses. Then why tell me before posting? That question had teeth. Soft teeth, but still. I answered plainly because a joke would have been cowardice. Because you told me you liked the novel before you knew it was mine. I wanted you to know before the class started treating you like a clue. She lowered her eyes. For a second, I thought I had made it worse. Then she said, I am not good at being treated like a clue. I noticed. But I can keep a secret for a little while. Hope showed up wearing glasses and holding a notebook like a shield. Thank you, Miss Blake. She glanced up. Are you still going to call me that when everyone knows? Especially then. Her mouth moved into the smallest smile. Strange. Consistent. Mr. Whitman checked my post before I sent it, which was not my natural instinct, but showed growth in the area of not detonating school politics during lunch. He read the draft, adjusted his glasses, and said, remove the line about Westbridge High being allergic to facts. It was accurate. It was also gasoline. Educational gasoline. Logan. I removed it. The final post was boring by my personal standards, which meant it was probably responsible. I attached the education account praise, the deleted Westbridge High repost, my Exit Pass author dashboard with private data covered, and a short note, Exit Pass has transferred to Brookfield High. Thank you to readers who waded through the seating chart. The Brookfield High forum lasted 3 minutes before turning into a marketplace of yelling. Grace found out first and physically turned in her seat to stare at me. Owen Fisher whispered, No way! With the reverence of a man witnessing a rumor hatch into a dragon. Chloe leaned back with a look that said she hated being right only because she had not been first to announce it. Mason Cooper read the post from the back row and muttered, Ridiculous. That was becoming his personal brand statement. Emma did not look surprised. She kept writing, but her ears were pink. That mattered more than the forum. The early payoff came faster than Westbridge High expected. Their deleted post did not erase me. It gave me a cleaner screenshot. By lunch, Brookfield High knew 3 things. Westbridge High had lost the Exit Pass author, Westbridge High had tried to delete the evidence, and the author now sat beside the quiet girl by the window. The first 2 facts made me interesting. The third made Emma a target. It happened during PE because humiliation loved witnesses, and PE provided them in bulk. We were on the side court after a light shuttle run, which for final year students meant 10 minutes of pretending our bodies had not been replaced by exam paper. Emma came in near the back, cheeks flushed, glasses slipping slightly. Public sweating was not her natural arena, and the class treated that like a moral defect. I bought 2 bottles of water from the vending machine and placed one on her desk when we returned. Hydration, I said. Very advanced sports science. Emma took it with both hands. Thank you. Across the aisle, Paige Lawson watched the exchange and whispered loudly enough to apply for broadcasting rights. The author buys Emma water now? What is this, a flower stuck in manure? The room went thin. Chloe, standing beside Paige, made a small laugh that died halfway through. Grace looked at Emma immediately. Emma froze with the bottle cap half open. That was where humor stopped. I could take gossip about me. I had been called a simp, problem student, fake author, and several phrases Ryan would have charged admission to repeat. But Emma had not asked for any of this. She had warned me about Mason. She had trusted me with a secret. She had done nothing except sit beside me and accept water. I stood. Paige's smile faded. Say it again, I said. She swallowed. I was joking. Then write the joke down. I want to see whether it gets funnier when you have to sign your name. Chloe stepped forward. Logan, she did not mean it like that. You laughed. Chloe's face changed. Both of you, I said. One apology note to Emma before evening self-study. Handwritten. Spare us the performance and the cute excuses. If you can turn her into class entertainment, you can use the same literacy skills to fix it. Paige went red. Who are you to order us? The person who will take this to Ms. Anderson with the exact sentence and the witnesses if you prefer adult supervision. Emma whispered, Logan. I looked at her, and my voice softened. You do not have to accept the notes if you do not want them. The hurt sat quietly in her eyes, which made every joke in the room look cheap. Paige looked away. Chloe's eyes reddened first, which would have been funny in another universe. She had not taken the hit, but she hated being seen as cruel. Different wound. Still useful. Fine, Chloe said, voice shaking. I will write it. Mason appeared in the doorway before the period ended. He saw Chloe's red eyes, saw me standing near Emma's desk, and did the simple math of a man who wanted the answer to be punching. Logan, he said, outside. I am indoors currently. After school. Gate. The room went quiet again. Emma gripped the bottle. Mason pointed at me. You think a test score in a novel make you untouchable? No, I said. I think they make me literate. He stepped closer. Gate. Do not run. There were many things I could have said. Several were excellent. None were worth making Emma cry harder. So I only nodded. After school. Emma turned toward me as soon as Mason left. You can tell Ms. Anderson? I can. Will you? I looked at the doorway where Mason had been. The obvious solution was a teacher report. In a clean world, that would be enough. In our world, it would turn into 3 new rumors before dinner. Emma made Logan complain. Chloe cried because of Emma. Mason was only protecting a classmate. The school would warn him, he would wait off campus, and Emma would become the center of a story she never asked to star in. If I report it now, your name becomes part of it, I said. I do not want that. Then what will you do? Keep my hands clean. She did not look comforted. Fair. That sentence sounded better after results. I texted Ryan during the next break. I messaged, does your cousin still do adult security for school events? Ryan Brooks messaged, depends who is asking, a paying customer or a tragic abandoned physics tutor? I messaged, both. Ryan Brooks messaged, what happened? I messaged, Mason is bringing people to Brookfield High Gate. Ryan Brooks messaged, how many? I messaged, I am hoping 15 to 20. For dignity. Ryan Brooks messaged, you are emotionally unwell. I messaged, can your cousin bring witnesses, cameras, and adults who look expensive to annoy? Ryan Brooks messaged, yes, he says no fighting. I messaged, perfect. Fighting is for people who hate their exam records. The only problem was cash. My money was at home, and Ryan's cousin wanted a call-out fee because adults did not assemble in vans for the honor of my character development. I sat down beside Emma before evening self-study. I need to ask an uncomfortable favor, I said. She looked up immediately. How much? You did not even ask what for. You would not be that embarrassed for homework. That was unfairly accurate. I explained the backup plan. Adult witnesses, no fighting, no touching, no heroic nonsense. Ryan's cousin would bring enough people to make Mason's outside boys rethink their extracurricular program. I needed a small cash loan until I could repay it the next day. Emma listened with both hands folded over her notebook. Will anyone get hurt? She asked. No. Will you hit Mason? No. Will this make him angrier? Briefly. She frowned. And after briefly? Embarrassed. Embarrassment is more educational. Emma opened her bag and took out her wallet. Before she handed me the money, I opened my notes app and wrote a debt record with the amount, purpose, and repayment date. Then I turned the screen to her. Her eyes moved over it. You do not need to write it. I do. Why? Because your money is not magic. It is trust with numbers attached. She stared at me for a second. Then she handed me the bills. Then, repay on time, she said. Yes, Miss Blake. The gate after school looked exactly like a gate after school. Students pouring out, bikes ringing, parents waiting, snack vendors doing better business than most teachers' motivational speeches. Mason waited across the street with 6 boys I did not know. 6. I had prepared emotionally for 15. The disappointment was real. Mason walked toward me with his hands in his pockets. You came. I did. I also wore comfortable shoes because someone promised a dramatic event. One of the outside boys laughed before Mason glared at him. Mason's face darkened. You made Chloe cry. Chloe laughed while Paige insulted Emma. Chloe is writing an apology. This is called a consequence. You think you can order people around? No. I think if people insult my deskmate, they can apologize in writing. Very literary. On theme. Mason stepped closer. That was when 2 vans pulled up behind me. Ryan's cousin got out first. I had never met him before, but I respected him instantly because he looked like a man who read contracts and lifted refrigerators for fun. Behind him came a dozen adults in plain jackets, each holding a phone, each old enough to make Mason's outside boys remember they had families who preferred them unrecorded. Ryan's cousin smiled. Which one is the student needing event security? I raised a hand. That would be me. Mason looked from the adults to me. What the hell is this? Community observation, I said. Ryan's cousin turned to Mason's group. Nobody touches anybody. We are recording the gate area because parents asked us to make sure students leave safely. If you are not here to cause trouble, you can keep walking. The outside boys discovered urgent appointments in several directions. It was beautiful, pure administrative oxygen entering a room full of matches. Mason stayed because pride was heavier than common sense. Once his borrowed crowd left, he looked like a student who had overdressed for a bad decision. You called adults, he said. You called outsiders. Coward. Correct. I am cowardly about ruining my SAT future. Very fragile in that area. His jaw tightened. Ryan's cousin looked at him. Student, go home. Mason looked ready to argue, then saw the phones. He turned and walked away. The result was clean. No punches, no injuries, no discipline record. A very loud silence filled the space where his threat used to be. By the next morning, the photos had spread through Brookfield High. They made Mason's outside backup look small and my adult witnesses look extremely boring, which was the whole point. Paige's apology note arrived before first period. It was stiff, nervous, and clearly written by someone who had discovered consequences had handwriting requirements. She apologized for insulting Emma, admitted the joke was cruel, and promised not to repeat it. Chloe's note came after. Hers was shorter. I laughed because I was jealous. That was ugly. I am sorry. Emma read both notes quietly. She did not smile, but her shoulders loosened. Do you accept them? I asked. She folded the notes and put them into her notebook. I accept that they wrote them. She had accepted the paperwork, not the performance. Good for her. The Brookfield High Forum pinned my exit pass repost under the literature discussion board by noon. Mr. Whitman pretended he had nothing to do with that, which meant he absolutely had something to do with that. Mason's circle gave me space in the hallway. Chloe stopped flirting for one whole morning, a restraint that probably counted as community service. And Emma, who had been dragged into attention because I sat beside her, looked at the pinned post, the apology notes, and the empty space Mason's friends now left around us. You told me first, she said during lunch. I did. And you did not say I was part of the post. You are not a prop. She looked down at her water bottle. People keep looking. I know. But it feels different from yesterday. Better or worse, Emma thought about it carefully. Less lonely. I had no joke for that. Mr. Whitman saved me from having to find one by stopping beside our desks with a stack of mock exam notices. Logan, he said, enjoy your fame today. Tomorrow the joint mock schedule begins. Chloe, done with her morning of restraint, turned around. The 4-school one? Mr. Whitman nodded. Westbridge High, Brookfield High, Northgate High, and Fairview Prep, Chinese composition included. Mason, at the back, looked up despite himself. Emma's hand tightened around her pen. Mr. Whitman smiled at me in the cruel way only teachers could manage. You wanted to do simple things repeatedly. Start with an exam. The post they deleted had made me famous. Now the score sheet had to make it expensive. The morning after Mason tried to outsource his courage, Ms. Anderson called both of us into the hallway. Mason arrived with his jaw set and his hands in his pockets. I arrived with a notebook, a pen, and the peaceful expression of a student who had technically not punched anyone. Growth looked good on me, very scholarly. Ms. Anderson looked from Mason to me. Explain. Teacher, I said, Mason and I are best buds. Mason's head snapped toward me. No, we are not. See? Comfortable honesty. Very strong foundation. Ms. Anderson closed her eyes for 1 second. She did that often around me. I was becoming part of her cardio. Logan! No fight happened, I said. No one was hurt. Some adults stood near the gate and recorded the area. Mason went home. Mason muttered, You brought a crowd. You brought one first. Ms. Anderson's gaze sharpened. Mason. He looked away. That gave Ms. Anderson enough to work with. She knew how student lies smelled before breakfast. Ms. Anderson lowered her voice. If either of you turns my class into an off-campus fight club, I will make sure your parents learn every detail before you can rewrite it. Understood, Mason said. Logan? Teacher, I am deeply committed to boring exits. You are committed to making me retire early. Also possible. Her mouth twitched, but only for a second. Then she looked at Mason again. This ends now. If there is a problem, you come to me. If I hear about outside students at the gate again, I will not care whose pride started it. Mason nodded once. I did too. Then Ms. Anderson kept me back while Mason returned to class. Truth, she said. So I gave her the clean version. Paige's insult, Chloe's apology note, Mason's threat, the adults at the gate, no touching, no injuries. I left Emma's fear out of it as much as I could because Emma had not volunteered to become a school incident report. Miss Anderson listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, You handled the physical danger without fighting. Good, thank you. You also created a public spectacle. A peaceful public spectacle. Logan, a medium-sized peaceful public spectacle. She sighed. I am watching you closely. That makes 2 schools. The difference is that I read evidence. That shut me up. Fair hit. Clean technique. By the time I sat down, Emma was looking at me with quiet concern. Best buds, she whispered. Working title? Mason heard from the back and made a sound like he had swallowed a staple. The first reward of the day was small, but satisfying. Mason did not threaten me, Chloe did not perform, and Paige looked at Emma's desk like the apology note might explode if she insulted it again. Then Westbridge High got involved. Ryan messaged me during the break between English and math. Ryan Brooks messaged, Morrison bought me breakfast. I messaged, was it poisoned? Ryan Brooks messaged, spiritually, yes. Ryan Brooks messaged, spiritually, yes. Ryan Brooks messaged, also he gave me $60. I stared at the message. I messaged Ryan. Ryan Brooks messaged, before you judge, I accepted it for evidence preservation and snack justice. I messaged, what did he want? Ryan Brooks messaged, he wants me to tell you, Westbridge High can clarify your discipline note if you stop posting about the deleted exit pass thing and let the school say the novel was developed while you were here. Ryan Brooks messaged, also Madison is supposed to message you. I think she is the emotional packaging. Right on schedule, a friend request appeared from Madison Cole. Her message preview floated on the screen. Madison Cole messaged, Logan, can we talk? Mr. Morrison said this is important for both schools. I do not want things to get worse. There she was, still trying to put perfume on a threat. I did not accept the friend request. I screenshotted it. I messaged, Ryan, did you keep the money? Ryan Brooks messaged, obviously. I am corrupt, not wasteful. I messaged, send photos of the envelope and the message. Ryan Brooks messaged, already did. Friendship includes file management. The screenshots arrived clean. Morrison's office desk, a folded envelope, Ryan's thumb in frame because, of course, Ryan's thumb wanted credit, and Morrison's message telling him to help guide Logan back to a cooperative attitude. $60. That was the price of Westbridge High's dignity in the morning market. I sent the files to my private folder and forced myself not to detonate them before lunch. Evidence did not expire if stored properly. My mock exam unfortunately did. Good teacher. Annoying, correct. The joint mock began the next day. 4 schools, shared papers, swapped proctors, and enough nervous energy to power the city lights if anyone could wire teenage dread safely. The moment I saw the answer sheet, the jokes thinned out. In the old life, exams had become a punishment chamber after the fight. I remembered sitting with a warning on my record, teachers treating me like a risk, my parents pretending not to worry at dinner, and my own brain refusing to stay still long enough to solve questions I knew how to solve. That memory did not vanish just because I had better lines now. The paper smelled like ink and cheap printing glue. My fingers rested on the desk. Clean hands, clean record, new school. Do simple things repeatedly. Read the question, find the trap, write the answer. The first subject passed without drama, which was exactly how exams should pass if adults would stop making teenagers perform emotional circus tricks around them. Then came Chinese. Before we entered the exam room, Grace whispered that everyone was panicking about composition themes. Chloe had 3 example essays memorized and the expression of someone who would personally sue the paper if none appeared. Emma had her outline notebook open, neat and quiet. I looked over the corridor crowd and lowered my voice. "Review environmental governance, youth responsibility, and community rules," I said. Owen Fisher blinked. "Why those?" "Because if the paper asks about celebrity gossip, we are all doomed anyway." Chloe narrowed her eyes. "Is this author instinct?" "No, it is student survival instinct." Emma looked at her notebook, then calmly added 2 lines under a heading. "You believe him?" Chloe asked her. Emma did not look up. "He is often strange, not usually random." That might have been the best review of my personality so far. The Chinese paper landed close enough to make the corridor whisper come back like a debt collector. The composition prompt asked about young people, public responsibility, and building a livable community. The match was close enough to make every whispered doubt turn around and stare at me. Future memory worked like a flashlight with low battery. If I pointed it at the right wall, I still had to walk. I wrote carefully. For once, exit pass felt less like a distraction and more like training. The essay had a hook, a spine, and only a few commas for Mr. Whitman to mourn. I turned in early. Dean Hayes was one of the rotating Westbridge High administrators watching the hallway outside the exam rooms. Interschool proctoring was supposed to build fairness. In practice, it gave adults a chance to exchange polite smiles while silently ranking each other's students. He saw me come out and frowned. "Already finished?" "Yes, Dean Hayes. Confidence is not the same as ability." "I agree. That is why I wrote answers." His eyes cooled. "Westbridge High students are still inside." "Good. They deserve enough time." I walked past him, then stopped like I had remembered something. "Dean Hayes?" He looked over. "If the education office asks for updates on exit pass, do you want me to say the author could not handle discipline or the author could not handle deletion?" For 1 second, his face lost its administrator polish. Then it came back, thinner. "You should worry about your score." "I am. That was the difference now. In the old life, I had worried like fear was a plan. This time, I worried by writing the paper." Ryan's message arrived after the last exam of the day. Ryan Brooks messaged, "Westbridge High announced an emergency campus writing contest." Ryan Brooks messaged, "Theme, real literary talent begins with moral character." Ryan Brooks messaged, "Bro, they invented a contest to subtweet you." I messaged, "I am honored." Ryan Brooks messaged, Morrison said copied internet novels have no exam value." I messaged, "Tell him punctuation crimes still count as literature." Ryan Brooks messaged, "Can I keep the $60 if this becomes evidence?" I messaged, "You can keep it as emotional damages." Ryan Brooks messaged, "Finally, justice." The score sheets posted 2 days later. Brookfield High announced them loudly. Schools loved humility until a ranking made them look good. Then humility went outside to get snacks. Ms. Anderson walked into class with the printed list, Mr. Whitman beside her, and a Brookfield High administrator standing at the door like he had come to inspect a miracle and hoped it was wearing the correct uniform. The classroom went silent. Ms. Anderson's eyes found mine. "Logan Miller. Present and emotionally prepared." "No, you are not," she said. "That was rude." "Accurate, but rude." Mr. Whitman took the list from her before I could ruin the mood. "Chinese composition and total Chinese score," he said. "First across all 4 schools." The room erupted. Chloe stood halfway out of her seat. "Across all 4? "Across all 4, Mr. Whitman repeated. Mason stared at me from the back like I had personally betrayed the natural order. Emma turned toward me slowly, eyes wide behind her glasses. I tried to look modest. I failed in a dignified direction. Mr. Whitman continued. English tied for the highest score group. Mathematics, top group. Science comprehensive. He paused. Ah, the human section. Science comprehensive is solid, but not at the same level. Some students laughed, not cruelly. More like relief. The beast had a weak spot. Thank goodness. The villagers could sleep. I nodded seriously. I appreciate proof that I remain mortal. Ms. Anderson looked at the list. Overall, first in Brookfield High and top tier across the 4 schools. That was the line that changed the room. English made me interesting. Exit pass made me noisy. The gate incident made me inconvenient. This made me valuable. Brookfield High's first-place student in the joint mock had transferred from Westbridge High 2 days after Westbridge High called him a discipline problem. Somewhere, I hoped Mr. Morrison was having a refreshing glass of consequences. Emma slid her own score sheet toward me during the chaos. Her grades were steadier than she gave herself credit for. Strong English, solid Chinese, careful math, science needing work but not disaster. You did well, I said. She shook her head. Not like you. Good. If everyone were like me, Ms. Anderson would resign. Emma's mouth curved. Maybe. Your composition improved, I said, pointing to the score. She looked down. I used the community examples. Miss Blake, that is called tactical trust. It is called revision, also tactical trust. It is called revision. Also tactical. Chloe leaned over before Emma could hide the paper. Next time, I am beating you in English. Me? Emma asked. Both of you, Chloe said, then pointed at me. Especially him. Healthy competition, I said. Terrifying from you, but healthy. Mason muttered from the back. First in Chinese does not mean you can fight. I turned. Correct. That is why you and I are best buds. The class laughed so hard Mason's ears went red. Ms. Anderson tapped the lectern. Enough! Logan, Mason, if I hear that phrase one more time before lunch, I am separating both of you from the concept of free speech. Teacher, I said, that sounds unconstitutional. Try me. I closed my mouth before my survival instincts filed another complaint. The ranking did not stay inside Brookfield High. Ryan sent me Westbridge High's reaction before dinner. Ryan Brooks messaged, your score sheet hit our group chat. Ryan Brooks messaged, Morrison said, joint mocks fluctuate and everyone should stay calm. Ryan Brooks messaged, Dean Hayes asked who leaks the full ranking. Ryan Brooks messaged, Dean Hayes asked who leaked the full ranking. Historical event. Then came a photo from the Westbridge High hallway. Someone had printed the 4-school ranking and circled my name. Next to it, in messy handwriting, a student had written, transferred out, ranked above us. That was petty. I respected the penmanship of revenge. Mr. Whitman found me after evening self-study, standing near the literature board where the exit pass repost was still pinned. You paid the challenge, he said. Does that mean my phone is free during Chinese class? After assigned work? Cruel detail. After assigned work, cruel detail, educational detail. He handed me a thin folder. The administration wants to hold an open literature class next week. Board leaders will attend as part of the school culture review. They want student work that proves Brookfield High encourages real learning. I want you to speak about exit pass and exam writing. I looked at the folder, then at him. Teacher, this sounds like a trap wearing a tie. It is an opportunity wearing a schedule. Can I decline? You can try. I opened the folder. Open class outline, literature club notice, board attendance note, board attendance note. Nothing too formal yet, but enough to feel like the ground moving under my feet. Westbridge High had thrown away a student. Brookfield High was preparing to put that same student in front of board leaders. This had moved beyond a score reveal. It was ammunition. Mr. Whitman watched my face. Do not use the open class to rant. I would never. Logan, I would rarely. Use your head. I looked back at the literature board, at the pinned repost Westbridge High had deleted, and at my name on the mock ranking in Ms. Anderson's hand. I will, I said. The joint mock had become a slap. Next week, Brookfield High wanted me to make it sound polite. Director Marshall asked me which school was better before I had even touched the microphone. That was how I learned adults could smile like a trap had manners. The board inspection team stood near the literature classroom entrance with Dean Roberts, Brookfield High's dean, hovering beside them like a nervous host at a dinner where the guests could cancel the house. Mr. Whitman had warned me to use my head. Ms. Anderson had warned me to use fewer jokes. Both instructions were unfairly ambitious. Director Marshall looked at my open class folder, then at me. Logan Miller, he said, you transferred from Westbridge High recently. Yes, Director. Then tell me honestly, which school do you think is better, Westbridge High or Brookfield High? Dean Roberts' smile froze. Ms. Anderson's eyes moved to me with the calm terror of a teacher watching a student approach a cliff with tap shoes. This was the kind of question that aids students for breakfast. Praise, Westbridge High and Brookfield High, lost face. Bury Westbridge High, and I looked bitter. Give a useless answer, and I became a decoration with good exam scores, so I chose the only road that did not end with my body on the floor. Westbridge High taught me pressure, I said. Brookfield High taught me balance. Director Marshall's eyebrows lifted. I continued before my mouth could get greedy. I learned a lot at Westbridge High. Their review pace is strong. But after I came here, Ms. Anderson judged me by what I did in class. Mr. Whitman corrected my writing without treating it like a crime, and the school let me prove myself through work instead of rumors. For a student preparing for the SAT, that matters. Dean Roberts started breathing again. Director Marshall smiled. That is a careful answer. I have been recently encouraged to avoid ranting. Mr. Whitman coughed once. It sounded like a warning disguised as a respiratory event. One of the other leaders laughed softly. Director Marshall turned toward Dean Roberts. Your teachers seem to have given him room. Dean Roberts nodded immediately. Brookfield High believes students need pressure and space, both. That line was clean enough to go on a banner. Dean Roberts looked grateful that someone had left him a usable sentence instead of a smoking crater. Director Marshall nodded toward the literature board. Let's take the photo here. I should have stood normally. I almost did. Then Director Marshall said, "You are also the student author of Exit Pass, correct?" "Correct. And first in Chinese across the 4-school mock." "That also happened." "Which school should win the demonstration culture review?" The second trap had arrived wearing the first trap's jacket. I looked at the literature board where my repost still sat under the discussion thread. I looked at Dean Roberts trying to become invisible in his own hallway. Then I smiled. Whichever school I attend, obviously. For one clean second, adult formality failed. Director Marshall laughed. Ms. Anderson put a hand over her mouth. Mr. Whitman looked at the ceiling like he was requesting patience from a higher department. I added, "But since I currently attend Brookfield High, I am willing to take a photo and help the evidence look strong." Director Marshall pointed at me. "This one is bold. Teacher says it is a management problem." The photo happened. Director Marshall, Dean Roberts, Mr. Whitman, Ms. Anderson, and me in front of the literature board. I held my score sheet because Director Marshall told me to, and because I was a humble person who respected leadership instructions when they happened to involve showing off. Ryan saw the photo before the afternoon period ended. Ryan Brooks messaged, "I leave you alone for one inspection and you join the government?" I messaged, "Student Culture Review." Ryan Brooks messaged, "You are standing next to Director Marshall." I messaged, "I tripped into civic engagement." Ryan Brooks messaged, "Posting this to Westbridge High Group." I messaged, "Use flattering angles." Ryan Brooks messaged, "Always. I am corrupt but professional." The photo spread faster than a rumor with a scholarship attached. By evening, Ryan sent 3 more updates. Westbridge High teachers had seen it. Mr. Morrison told Homeroom 204 not to discuss unverified online boasting. Dean Hayes asked the office who had let board leaders take photos with a transferred student. Then Westbridge High's PE department suddenly announced that public teasing, physical provocation, and off-campus gatherings around students would be strictly corrected. Amazing timing, truly mysterious, a policy flower blooming in the warm sunlight of career fear. The humor stopped when my mother called. "Logan," she said, voice careful. "Dean Hayes called home." I stepped out behind the classroom building where the noise was lower. "What did he say?" "He asked whether you were adapting well. Then he said if there were misunderstandings about your file, the school could discuss them with us later." The same people who had signed me away now wanted the door to stay unlocked. Did he apologize? My mother was quiet for one breath. "No, then it is not a discussion yet." She sighed. "Your father asked why a dean suddenly cared after you transferred." Dad had joined the chat. "Tell him I am fine," I said. "And tell him not to sign or agree to anything if Westbridge High contacts you again. We will not." That answer settled something in me. In the old life, my parents had been dragged from office to office and fed official shame until even defending me felt exhausting. This time, Westbridge High had to call politely. Justice had not arrived. Movement had. The following week, the open literature class started. Mr. Whitman had promised it would be simple. Teacher language for, many adults will sit in the back and silently judge your soul. The room filled with students first, then teachers, then Dean Roberts and Director Marshall's group. Ms. Anderson stood near the wall with her arms folded, wearing the expression of a woman ready to drag me out by the collar if I treated the event like stand-up comedy. Emma sat in the second row, hands folded on her notebook. She looked nervous for me, which was unfair because I had planned to be nervous for myself and did not need help. Mason leaned against the back wall with 2 other boys. He tried to look bored. He failed when he saw the leaders. Mr. Whitman introduced me with a speech short enough to prove he respected oxygen. Logan Miller transferred to Brookfield High recently. He is the author of Exit Pass and ranked first in Chinese across the 4-school mock. Today he will speak about writing, exams, and what students can do with limited time. He glanced at me. Briefly. I walked to the front with my score sheet and my printed Exit Pass draft. "The reason I am showing my score sheet first," I said, holding it up, "is simple. I am showing off." The students laughed immediately. Mr. Whitman closed his eyes. Director Marshall smiled. "Also," I continued, "if I talk about discipline before proving I can pass an exam, everyone will think I am just another guy with a hobby and a big mouth. I do have a big mouth, but I prefer to bring documents." That got a stronger laugh. Then I put the score sheet down. Exit Pass did not save my grades by magic. It just taught me to do simple things repeatedly, check the logic, cut the useless clever line, answer the actual question, then do it again. Mr. Whitman's face softened a fraction. So far, I had not embarrassed his profession. When I transferred, people called me a problem student. Some people still do. That is fine. Labels are easy. Work is harder. Brookfield High gave me a classroom where my work could answer. Ms. Anderson did not ask me to perform guilt. Mr. Whitman did not praise my writing and ignore my mistakes. They gave me pressure that pointed forward. The room quieted. I knew exactly where the rant lived. It was right there, behind my teeth, carrying Mr. Morrison's face and Dean Hayes's voice. I could have opened the cage. I could have made the room gasp. Instead, I looked at Emma. She was watching me like she trusted me to choose the better version. So I did. If there is one thing I learned, I said, it is that facts matter more when people want to set them aside. Scores, drafts, apologies, improvement. Do the simple things repeatedly, and sooner or later, the story people tell about you has to fight the evidence. For a second, nobody moved. Then someone near the back said, "Beast." Another student picked it up. "Beast." Then half the room started chanting it because students could turn any serious moment into a sports event if given 3 seconds and poor supervision. "Beast! Beast! Beast!" I did not start it. I would like the record to show that clearly. Mr. Whitman tapped the lectern. "Enough!" They got louder. Ms. Anderson hid a smile behind her hand. Mason from the back wall did not chant, but he watched me differently. Less like a target, more like a puzzle that had insulted him and then solved itself in public. Director Marshall clapped first. The leaders followed. The students shifted from chanting into applause, and for one clean breath, I was not Westbridge High's expelled problem, not Madison's former shield, not Dean Hayes's file threat. I was Brookfield High's student. That should not have hit as hard as it did. After class, Director Marshall shook my hand. "You are very good at walking near a line without stepping over it," he said. "Recent training. Brookfield High is lucky to have you." Dean Roberts looked like someone had handed him a gold